Alright, I'm back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be going over a game that was played in the 2023 Airthings Masters tournament held in February of last year. And this was a 10+2 rapid tournament that was held on chess.com with a lot of strong players. This game that I'm going to be going over was between Christopher Yu, 2589 FIDE at the time, and Teimour Radjabov, 2747 FIDE. So let's just jump right in. White kicks the game off with pawn to e4, pawn to e5 in response, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop to c4. So this is the Italian game, one of the oldest openings in all of chess, putting the bishop on a strong diagonal, targeting this weak f7 point, a very common opening. So bishop to c5 is the most common reply. And generally these days, white either plays c3, d3, or castles. Those are probably the most common moves these days. But in this game, white goes for the much more aggressive pawn to b4. So this is the Evans Gambit. Generally not seen too often these days, but in a 10+2 rapid, if you prepare this opening well, it could definitely catch your opponent off guard and make him spend more time than he would like in the opening, which is why Radjabov most likely chose to play bishop to b6. After bishop to b6, white simply plays pawn to a4, looking to trap this bishop on b6. After a5, bishop d4, c3, the bishop would be trapped, so black chooses to play a6 to give this bishop a flight square. White castles kingside. Black simply develops the kingside knight, knight to f6, and white plays a very aggressive move, pawn to d4. So there are a few options here. In the game, it was e takes d4. If bishop takes d4 is played, knight takes d4 would most likely ensue, and then after knight takes d4, white's big idea here is simply to play something like bishop to b2, and there's no way to really prevent the loss of a pawn in a position like this. So you could try knight to c6 to defend this pawn, and then there are a couple options. One, white could look to play b5 to try and kick this knight again, to try and remove defense of this pawn on e5. The engine also suggests other moves like simply developing the knight or playing pawn to f4 to try and rip things open, but white would have the bishop pair in this case and is looking to play really aggressively. In the case of knight takes d4, this would lose the pawn on e5, and I don't think Radjabov really wanted to deal with this, even if after something like knight e6, the position still seems relatively balanced. He didn't really like the looks of this. So in the game, it was e takes d4. Pawn to e5 was played. Pawn to d5 was played. This is a common move in a lot of these Italian game type structures, but in this position, it seems like it might not be the best idea. However, it's hard to suggest what else to do. The engine suggests knight g4, but that can be a little bit risky, particularly with bishop takes f7 ideas looming. Pawn to d5 was played, and in the game we have e takes f6, d takes c4, f takes g7, hitting this rook on g8. The rook must move. Rook to g8 is played, rook to e1 check is played, bishop to e6 blocking this check, and then bishop to g5. So white is playing very aggressively here, just trying to seize the initiative. White is currently up a pawn in this position and has aggressive intentions, so white certainly has an advantage in this position, and the engine confirms that. Black plays queen to d6, looking to maybe play knight to e7 and castle queenside if possible, but first of all, just moving the queen and looking to maybe pick up this pawn on b4. White develops his last piece, knight bd2, looking to either play knight takes c4 or knight to e4 with some fork ideas on f6. Black plays queen takes b4, which is a very aggressive move and looks greedy, but it's very hard to suggest what to do here for black. If you play rook takes g7, knight e4 is still going to come and it's going to hurt. So black opts to simply try and take this pawn on b4 and maybe get some sort of counterplay, but black's king is in some serious danger here and cannot castle queenside at the moment. Knight to e4 is played, rook takes g7, knight f6 check, king f8. You don't want to go along this diagonal, and king d7 is not possible due to this knight. So black opts to go to f8 and just allow bishop to h6, skewering this rook or pinning this rook to the king and looking to pick up the rook very quickly. Black plays queen to c5, looking to bring the queen back in laterally to defend if need be. And white uncorks this brilliant rook takes e6. And the game is pretty much over here. But after f takes e6, knight to d7 check is a nice finish. So the game was over after 18 moves, and this is a great example of the kind of attack that can arise in the Evans Gambit, and it was a very well played game from Christopher Yu against a very strong Teimour Radjabov.